I was taking lessons from 8th grade, 9th grade, something like that. And it was from this buddy of mine who I started taking lessons from. I guess Bob's about 7, 8 years older than I am. And what I liked about him is that sometimes I'd just go in and say, hey, play this Hendrix song. I just wanted to see someone actually play it in front of me. You know what I mean? But he had all, totally. There was a good jazz conservatory here in town that a lot of people, it was a legit place where a lot of people came from all over to go to this school. And he went to school there. So he knew he was learning jazz as well as being able to do all the kind of classic Cream, Hendrix, Allman Brothers, yada, yada, yada. But he recommended this book, and I always tell people about the book, and it's kind of hard to get at this point in time for whatever reason. People are like, oh, man, that book's going for like $200 on eBay. I'm like, what? You got to be kidding me.
Really?
But this guy named Warren Nunes, Nunes, he was a San Francisco-based jazz guitar player, and he came out with this book. It was just called Jazz Guitar, The Blues, and it starts off kind of with like a basic 12-bar progression, and then he just proceeds to add more interesting chords and substitutions and 2/5s and all this kind of stuff. So by the time you're done, it's like you're just immersed in all these cool chords. And I realized I have probably, I've added more chords to the arsenal, but so much of what I do was from this book I got when I was like in 8th grade. You know what I mean?
That's
and
cool,
I still
though.
take it out every now and again, and I'll go, man, that's some cool shit.
Yeah. Well, it's true. It's so weird. Like I found myself looking in places that aren't your traditional guitar places.
Right.
So I was kind of looking at obviously when you first start this journey, you sort of boil it down to go, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I kind of want to do like The Wind Cries Mary, that stuff, the melodic stuff.
Right.
But then I want my guitar to sound like when Nina Simone sings.
Right.
So that's what I want to do. And then like mix that together, and that's me. And so then I went from like Hendrix, and I was like, well, who else kind of does that, but with weird chords like jazz? And I thought immediately, I was like, well, John Frusciante does that because he uses those weird chords,
right, like
the 7s and the 9s and diminished, and he makes it sound melodic. It's not really jazz. Right. So like I went there, and then that led me to like the Nina Simone guitar playing, and then even like Jeff Buckley, who uses a lot of strange chords. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is cool. So I sort of had like a little bit of stuff to search. And then I found like Julian Lage and all that. And it was like, that really opened a lot to my mind. I was like, whoa, that guy's good. It's crazy good.
Yeah, he's fantastic. There's never any, shall we say, short supply of cool stuff to learn. That's a great thing about playing guitar is that it never gets boring. I've been kind of harassing my kids. My oldest son plays drums with me. And the girls are into theater and they sing, and one kind of plays a little bit of guitar and one plays a little bit of bass, but they don't really they'll practice a little bit here and there, and then it's that. And then my youngest plays saxophone, and he's involved with the jazz, this jazz ensemble thing through the conservatory and at school. And he shows promise, but they're like, I don't really like practicing. I'm like, look, you don't get it.
Yeah.
Times will change. And when you have music, you'll never get bored, and you'll always have people to hang with because you'll have kindred spirits who enjoy the same thing that you do, and you can get together and have this meaningful experience. But it's one of those things where either you get the bug or you don't.
Right. 100%. Well, practicing is tough. It's kind of a drag a little bit, but not when you know you're going somewhere and the only way to get there is by practicing. Like, right. When you hit the time where you're trying to do something and it sort of just is not happening and It's way above your skill level, but you slow it down to 30 BPM or whatever, something ridiculously slow. And I read somewhere that of all people, fellow New Jerseyan Zakk Wylde,
yes,
who I love, but not an influence, right. Like I'm a fan, but not an influence. And right. So I read an article where he was saying, he's like, there was a point when I was young and I realized there's nothing I can't do. Like when I was watching Steve Vai or something as a kid, he said, it's just a matter of how many times am I willing to do it until it's right.
Right. And
I said that the difference between your goal, he said the difference between your goal and where you're at is how many times you're willing to do it. And I was like, right. I was like, all right, now I'm doing this. So
that's it. That's as you said earlier too. It's like, now that you've been playing for a while, things come quicker than they did when you were early. And that's one of the things I was trying to tell my son. He's like, man, practicing is so hard. I go, yeah, but the more that you do it, the better you'll get. And then it becomes more fun because you can do more. Yeah. And it just kind of feeds into that. So I think there's definitely that. I mean, I totally remember, I'm sure you do too, when you're younger and you're like, God, if it was only 2 years from now, after all this practice, that I'll be able to do X, Y, and Z, you know? And a lot of those things did come to fruition. I had these goals of like, I want to be able to do this, this, and this, and this. And at first it just seemed hard and a nightmare, but you just keep at it. Yeah. And it comes. That's why I tell a lot of folks that I'm doing a Skype lesson with somebody or something like that. Well, how much do you practice? And I'm like, well, I kind of play all the time. I don't really practice. I mean, I do kind of, we'll touch up on this and the next thing, but people think, oh, well, on the weekend I'll play for a couple hours and then they're wondering why they don't make any progress. I'm like, no, you got to do stuff every day. It's
every day.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing. I mean, you kind of don't stop practicing. Like I sort of pick it up. It's weird because like, I use the morning and the night as a good time because that's when my kids are tired. So I try to it's like I sneak attack when they're not ready for it. And I grab my guitar and sit on the couch while they're waking up and eating breakfast. And I'll just run through like scales, which is, sure. But I like doing it because I can move my fingers and do what I'm doing, but not concentrate at all and totally be engaged in like, if they're talking to me, I can be like, yep. Right. And, and like
getting that muscle memory going. It's important.
It's the thing. It really is helpful. And it's such a weird thing though, to be, at this, like I learned, I'm 40, but I learned piano. I had never touched piano and I learned it at 37. Uh-huh. So, which is a weird time to be taking up piano, but right. I grabbed it and I was able to I'm not great at it, but I can play Night Swimming from REM, which is a pretty tough song. And, I was able to play my own songs on the piano, which is really all I ever wanted to do. And that encouraged me to say like, well, what else is possible? Like, right. I don't know, maybe I'm super good and just don't know it, or maybe not, but let's find out. So we're finding out.
It's great to be able to just, especially if you've got time to do it. As you said, if you're a musician, you can do, once you've been playing along, it's easy to transmit it to different instruments and so on and so forth. And it just never gets old. No, it's kind of weird, when this sequestering thing started, it's like, after you get over to the fact of, okay, what do I need to do during the day to kind of make sure that I have, money to eat? But people are like, I'm so bored. What am I going to do? What show should I watch on Netflix? I'm like, if people just leave me alone and I can play my guitar, I'm good.
Yeah. It's like, you don't have to do anything. I mean, that's like, there's even so many things like too, once you pick it up, like I was for the first year of this whole thing, I was sort of learning, since my band doesn't really play now, I'm just by myself. So I was like, well, I play mostly acoustic. So how, I'm not just going to strum the thing. That'll get boring after 2 hours of a show or a record or whatever. So I'm like, I got to learn all this finger picking business. Right. So I did. And like, there's like aspects of the guitar too. There's like lead and chords, and then there's finger picking. And I was slowing it down to like a choo-choo train and just like 2, 2, 3.
Oh, you got to do it. Absolutely.
But God bless my wife for just tuning it out. She's like awesome at tuning me out. She's like, yes. I don't even hear you doing it anymore. She'll wake up at 2 a.m. The little metronome going. Like, better than drugs.
Now, does your wife play anything at all? Is she musician minded or not really?
No, she's a theater and film. She does that. She's a producer and she does that end of it where kind of lays the conceptual thing out. So she's got a whole other artistic brain. It's cool.
Got it.
Yeah. So it's like a completely different thing. And sometimes I watch that go on and go, oh. Right. Like, well, you should plan out my life for me then. Because if you can dictate all these people where they should go,
right?
You got to give me a schedule or something. Because I'm a mess with that.
Direct me.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I brush my teeth at 3 p.m. I don't know. Playing every night acoustic, I was doing things I probably shouldn't have been doing, like should have warmed up before I did them, like stretches and things. And I ended up with like that ulnar nerve thing in your elbow where it basically was like every time you bent out your elbow, it just like really hurt bad. So that I had to get that all healed up, which the sitting around actually helped. And then it got better. And I was like ready to go back on tour again. And then it was like, so, well, at least I can practice. It's cool.
Yeah, the arm, the musculature. That's a hard word. Yeah, problems with the arms and the hands is something that always has made me paranoid. And luckily, I've been good. About 2 nights ago, I woke up and my wrist was killing me. And I was like, what is this? I must have slept on it wrong. So I've been wearing an arm brace, and it seems to have helped quite a bit. But
yeah, terrifying. Well, I think that they never teach you sort of like posture and like sitting up and holding the thing right, and not, like the biggest thing was like, no one ever told me not to hold bar chords like that.
I got you. Yeah.
Like this. You have to really, like, you sort of have to keep it straight and then pull back on the guitar and not let that thumb be gripping it with a death grip.
Right.
It's a tricky thing because that's how I got it. I was like squeezing so hard with my thumb and then stretching my fingers with the wrist all like this. So look at that position. It's terrible.
Yeah.
So it just twisted up the nerve, but it's fine. It came out. It's all right.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about some of those acoustics I've been seeing you playing.
Well,
Martins, or are they like fancy Martins, or is it more of a custom thing? I couldn't quite tell.
They're all fancy Martins. So one
Excellent.
is one of them is a 000 42.
Okay.
So essentially, it's just like I saw Eric Clapton play it on the Unplugged, and I was like, I like that guitar. I gotta have that one. So there was like that one, and then I got a 12 fret 0042. That was my friend from an unnamed shop in Asbury that, whatever. He ordered it custom, and he just put it together, and he showed it to me one day, and I was like, that's not going on the floor. That's going home with me.
Yes.
So I basically just he let me sell off guitars to pay it off, and I did. So we had to wait a little while to consign them and things, but I did it, and it worked, and that thing is awesome. It sounds.
I saw a video of you playing with that one. I had a lot of pearl inlay on the headstock too, right?
Yeah, and it has the open headstock. So, but it's really tiny. It's 12 frets. So there's no business up here. Right. You just gotta, you gotta own the first 12 frets, which is great. But I mean, hey, you learn a couple little triads. It's good.
Right.
So,
it sounded glorious.
It is glorious in person, incredible. And then the only other one is a recent acquisition. I got my very first vintage guitar. So I've never owned a vintage guitar, and I got a 1945 00018.
Oh,
yeah. So it's pretty sweet. It's got no big changes on it, but lots of wear, played for real.
Right.
But bridge has been re-glued, neck was reset 100 years ago. But plays awesome. Neck is dead straight. It's great. So that's my real wow. 1945.
Yeah, that's wicked.
What? That's so cool.
Some about those old guitars, it's I was at someplace where they had a whole bunch of old Martins, kind of just all lined up.
Yeah.
And, when you get those old ones, man, they all sound great. I mean, new Martins sound beautiful, and custom shop ones sound glorious. But the older ones, there's just a thing. That's one of the things, people are like, vintage guitar is really that big. It's well, there's definitely something about them. You know what I mean?
There is. I mean, I think with electrics, you can kind of electrics, they can be sort of faked. Like for instance, that one Murphy that you played, the gold top,
right?
That did sound like a vintage gold top. It was, if my eyes were closed, I don't think I would have known which one was which.
Right.
But with an acoustic, I mean, that small body 00 Martin is probably it's definitely the highest end custom shop I've ever touched.
Sure.
But it doesn't sound like the old one because it's so dry.
Right.
So if I was going to be which one is more of a difference, I would say the acoustic old ones are more of a difference than but they can be had. If you don't, I didn't get pre-war, I got right up against the end of the war. You know,
Right.
the cost is different. It's different, you know, and
absolutely.
I think that if you know, that's why you got to buy a lot of guitars from Wildwood, keep some, and then you have stuff to sell because it's quality if you need to. And I will say that Wildwood does have a few vintage pieces from now and then.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. There's always something to tempt one. Although, as I haven't been out there now in a few months, so
you haven't.
I've been no, I'm in Wisconsin. So when you know, I did get one of those COVID antibody tests because I thought, well, maybe I did have a mild version of it, and now I'm over it. And if I'm over it, well, then maybe I can go out in Colorado and do some videos. So I got the test, and I haven't had it apparently. Of course, those tests aren't 100% anyways, apparently, but
yeah.
So yeah, I don't imagine I'll be going out there again until, well, who knows, you know.
Yeah, I will say though that I was thoroughly pleased because when I ordered that Tele recently, it was like 2 weeks ago, they had said, they're like, we're actually going to hold on to it for just a couple days, like 72 hours or something, just to be safe. Right. And I was like, I mentioned it to my wife, and I was like, wow, that's kind of, I was like, I never heard that before. She's like, it's awesome. Better safe than sorry. And then I 100% agree with that. That's a good way to do it.
Absolutely. It's a good thing. But, you know, I did want to talk to you a little bit about, you know,